I marbled together some purple fondant and blue fondant and white fondant, and I'm going to use it to cover this 12-inch square board. So I'm just going to roll my fondant out, and I have sped up the video in the interest of saving time. I'm going to roll my fondant out into a relatively square shape that is big enough to cover the board. Once I know that my fondant is big enough to cover the board, the easiest way to get the fondant transferred onto the board is just to fold it in half over the rolling pin like this, and then slip the board up against the fondant and cover it that way. You can use piping gel or even just dampen the surface of the board with a little bit of water, and the fondant will stick to it just fine. And now I'm going to elevate it so that the excess fondant hangs over the edges, and I'm going to attach the fondant to the sides and edges of the board. Notice it's a little bit easier if you pinch down the corners first, and then you can go along and smooth the sides. And then I'm just going to take my tapered spatula and trim any excess fondant even with the bottom of the cake board. You could certainly use an imprint mat or a texture sheet to add some kind of pattern or texture to the fondant at this point. I'm just going to leave mine smooth. Then I'm just going to finish it off with my fondant smoothing tool to make sure that it is firmly adhered to the board and I've smoothed out any rough areas. And with this leftover purple fondant, I'm going to add some super black gel paste food coloring, and I'm going to tint it black. This is going to be the ghost's arms and his mouth and his eyes. And it's a bit of a messy process, so if you don't want your fingers stained from the food coloring, get some disposable gloves.